Good day there once again, viewers. Your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys with some more Planetside 2 content. Today guys, we're going to be taking a look at the MG-S1 Jackal, the brand new Empire-specific SMG available to the Terran Republic. We will be taking a look at the statistics for the weapon in this video, as well as some attachment options to see how you can best improve the weapon, all the while taking a look at some tips and tricks that will help you make the most of this rather interesting addition to the Terran Republic arsenal. Now, for convenience sake, I know that not everybody has the time to sit through a 10 to 15 minute long review on a single weapon from a video game. Some of you, well, have lives that mean you have to do other more important things, but that's okay. For those of you who are a little dry on time, let's do a quick TLDR review of the weapon. And I'm going to be real with you guys right now. This weapon feels mighty confused to me. This weapon here is essentially a TR submachine gun that takes a lot of influence from the NC's Cyclone, you know, the dreaded Cyclone, which out of the box sounds fantastic, but the Jackal substitutes a lot of the DPS that Cyclone provides for a more jack-of-all-trades kind of role. To be more specific here, it features the exact same damage profile that you can find on the Cyclone, hence the influence I was talking about earlier, but comes with a greatly decreased rate of fire. Now, the trade-off here is that this weapon is in fact a laser beam. Seriously, the vertical recoil on this thing simply does not exist and is superbly easy to control for long-distance firefights, which should in theory give this weapon a little bit more effective range when you burst it correctly, yada 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 yada. Which it does, don't get me wrong. But the issue that the Jackal finds itself in is that there are going to be plenty of other weapons out there available to all classes that are going to do the job of jack-of-all-trades weaponry a lot better than the Jackal. That's the confusing part about this weapon. It's not a bad weapon per se, it's just that it's going to be going against a lot of other weapons that are going to be better at doing what its job actually is in the first place, which in my opinion makes it a less effective weapon overall when you compare it against the other weapons you're going to be going against. In short, the Jackal is with its quirks, but it isn't something you should go out and buy on day one. Thankfully, the Jackal does look fucking awesome, probably my favourite new SMG visually. Now, for those interested in a more in-depth review, let's dive into the statistics of the weapon. The Jackal is going to run you a total of 1000 certs at your local quartermaster's office to unlock for a single TR soldier, or 699 Daybreak coin to unlock across all current and future TR enlistments. Now, based on how I feel this weapon performs at the time of this review, I wouldn't say making a huge investment in this weapon with either form of currency is a good idea, unless you have some spare lying around. Once again, because this weapon is more of a niche kind of weapon, it is very much a gun to pick up late in the game, after you have all of your essentials unlocked. So hold on to your pennies unless you are A, desperately looking for something new to farm, or B, have a serious addiction to collecting weapons, in which case, go nuts. When it comes to the Jackal's damage model, it comes with a maximum damage of 167 at 6 meters, dropping off to a minimum damage of 100 at the 46 meter mark, which, as we said before, is the best-in-class damage model for the TR SMG lineup. This gives the weapon some fantastic alpha damage in CQC, taking as little as 6 shots to score a kill within that 6 meter range, but makes for a fairly weak damage output at ranges, as it drops a total of 4 damage tiers, taking 7 shots to kill a target within the 6 to 20 meter mark, 8 shots to kill a target within the 20 to 30 meter mark, 9 shots to kill a target within the 30 to 38 meter range, dropping all the way to 10 shots to kill a target beyond that 38 meter range. Now, taking the rate of fire of 600 rounds per minute, or 10 rounds per second into account, we arrive at a theoretical time to kill of 0.5 seconds at the 6 meter mark, 0.6 seconds at the 20 meter mark, 0.7 seconds at the 30 meter mark, 0.8 seconds at the 38 meter mark, and 0.9 seconds at the 46 meter mark, keeping in mind that these time to kill values are based off of an instantaneous bullet travel, where all rounds land in the chest area of a target with no damage modifiers in play. So, as I said, incredibly theoretical, but we can see that based off these numbers, the Jackal in comparison to other CQC focused weapons tends to fall short in the time to kill aspect. Now, moving on to the recoil pattern of this weapon, for those who aren't interested in the nitty gritty numbers, the weapon features a very mild vertical recoil. As I said before, vertical recoil on the Jackal doesn't exist. Nada. Nothing. It's superbly easy to control. but bring the horizontal recoil into the equation and, well, things actually don't become too bad, honestly. The weapon features some relatively mild horizontal shift that will see it jostling left and right quite commonly, but not very far away from the center point of your burst, which will make it seem like a dream when compared to against other TR submachine guns. It also comes with some right-hand side horizontal angle influence to boot, which is going to require you to pull down and to the left on your mouse to compensate effectively. Now, for those who are interested in the in-depth numbers, the weapon features a vertical recoil kick of 0.15 degrees per shot, which is on par with the SMG 46 armistice that I'm sure many TR soldiers will be well acquainted with. The only difference between the Jackal and the armistice is, well, the rate of fire is 296 rounds per minute slower, meaning that the vertical recoil will feel a lot less intense by comparison. The first shot multiplier is 2 times, putting this weapon at a 0.3 degrees vertical kick every time you initiate a burst. Now we move on to horizontal recoil. This is always a massive info dump, so please do prepare yourself, ladies and gents. The Jackal features a horizontal recoil shift of 0.3 degrees minimum to 0.35 degrees maximum per shot, with a horizontal recoil tolerance of 0.6, which effectively means that the weapon is capable of kicking once in a direction horizontally before being forced back in the opposite direction by the horizontal tolerance. As a result, the weapon is going to have a tendency to jolt back and forth, left and right on you a lot during firefights, which will become incredibly annoying as the ranges kind of extend. But what this also means is that the weapon isn't going to stray far from its center firing point based off of the horizontal shift alone. However, enter stage right, the recoil angle. Throw in a 15-degree recoil angle on this weapon that gives it a constant pull to the right hand side, and the weapon will feel like it's always moving off center. So take a jolting horizontal shift and a consistent pull to the right, and you have a less than ideal horizontal recoil pattern that actually hurts this weapon's odd jack-of-all-trades feel. On the right hand side of the screen you will find all of the cone of fire values relating to the weapon. Fuck no am I going through all of them in this video, so feel free to read them at your own leisure. When it comes to the ammo related stats of the weapon, it comes with a 30 round magazine with 230 rounds in the reserve. To reload such magazine, the weapon takes 2 seconds for a short reload and 2.6 seconds for a long reload, which is quite competitive in close quarters combat. Wrapping up this weapon is the aiming down sights movement multiplier of 0.75 times and the muzzle velocity, which is just downright pathetic really, only 350 meters per second. So, that's the Jackal, and if you thought the Gladius was a confused weapon, then this thing is going to feel even more confused than a dog looking at its own reflection. The Jackal's best-in-class damage output per round, but a less than ideal damage output overall due to its painfully average rate of fire makes crosshair placement a key priority here. The less than forgiving rate of fire will punish you greatly for missing shots, especially against weapons that feature faster rates of fire. And traditionally, I would often recommend to steer clear of hip firing with weapons of this design. People who have seen my Gladius review will know that I told people to avoid hip fire like the plague with that weapon due to its painfully slow rate of fire and high risk damage model. And respectively, when compared against all weapons in the game, the Jackal is very much in the same boat. When put against weapons designed specifically for close quarters combat, it's going to be disadvantaged. But the hip fire accuracy of this thing is so good out of the box to the point where it actually makes it pretty damn capable of firing from the hip regardless of its damage model. The damage model on this thing isn't so stupidly dependent on scoring headshots in close quarters combat to down targets reliably to the point where sacrificing a little bit of accuracy for more movement speed isn't going to mean the end of the world. Hell, hitting headshots at a semi-decent range is possible here with the Jackal due to its accuracy, especially with that advanced laser sight on board. Bet you can see what I'm going to be recommending for the attachment options now, hey? Anyway, making use of the hipfire allows for you to stay incredibly mobile and still deal damage accurately. But moving past this slight advantage that the weapon carries, we return to, well, the confusion basically. For most weapons, a high-end damage model with a slow rate of fire often means long-ranged emphasis, and with that, long-range weapons tend to receive an arm-breaking vertical recoil with a mild quote-unquote shiver of a horizontal recoil, if you will, which is the complete opposite of what the Jackal provides. Its recoil pattern is basically a simulation of a sneezing fit, low vertical blowback but a shit ton of random spray that is sure to hit a passerby. And believe it or not, I actually found myself doing that a lot when I was taking on multiple targets that were within groups. I would often end up hitting people around my original target, and, well, proceed to attract a lot of attention to myself. But this horizontal deviation, in combination with the sharp damage drop-off and the sluggish muzzle velocity, means that this is a weapon that suffers incredibly in the long-range department, unless you are dealing with a target that is completely oblivious and running in a straight line, preferably towards you. Which kinda leaves us to wonder, where does this weapon lie? Where should you use it? Should you buy it in the first place? It really depends. If you've ever wanted to use the Cyclone as a Terran Republic soldier, this is going to be the closest you're ever going to get, well, at least with the current armament. It sacrifices a little bit of damage output for extra hipfire accuracy, which makes the weapon a little bit more familiar to TR veterans, but it's still a weapon that fits into the jack-of-all-trades role that I just don't think the TR SMGs needed. It just feels outclassed and out of place the majority of the time. It's certainly a weapon that I would only ever use for shits and gigs, but never, and I mean never, for serious farming. But let's just say that you're still interested in the weapon, you own it, or you're looking to own it for yourself really soon. Let's take a look at some of the attachment options available to the weapon. The Jackal has access to a 1x through the 3.4x scope, including both the 2x range optic and the 1x RNV sights, the hybrid suppressor, advanced laser sight, dark light flashlight, forward grip, BX adapter, and soft point ammunition. Now, before we go any further, let's take a look at the BX adapter, also known as the boomstick. It's a unique attachment available to the Jackal that essentially adds a brand new firing mode to the weapon that will burst 9 rounds in very quick succession, capable of essentially one-clipping enemies. The downside? Well, it takes those 9 rounds from your actual magazine size, which can really hurt your adaptability with the weapon. I will say that when you can aim it right, the boomstick firing mode is fucking hilariously good fun to use. There's nothing quite like coming out of cloak, mowing some poor, unsuspecting bastard down with a hailstorm of SMG bullets, only to disappear straight away again. A huge advantage of this attachment is that when you use the burst mode, you will still have ammunition good to go in the magazine for the standard firing mode. Great if you happen to tag an enemy with the burst mode, but don't quite get the job done. With that said, it is still very much a novelty attachment, something that you use for shits and gigs when you are feeling just a tad bit bored. The weapon does need to go through a spin-up, if you will, before it can fire in the burst mode, which makes it extremely situational to use competitively, to the point where you're actually just better off making use of the standard firing mode more often than not, which makes the other attachments better picks the majority of the time. But hey, if you're up for just some standard old bullshittery, then take this attachment just for some fun. But anyway, let's move on to some recommended attachment options. To me, your first priority should be the advanced laser sight for 200 certs. While yes, it is an incredibly expensive attachment to add to your weapon out of the box, it will be well worth it. The advanced laser sight improves on this weapon's already tight cone of fire, despite its average CQC damage profile, making it even more competitive in CQC brawling. With the extra accuracy provided by the advanced laser sight, you'll still be able to remain as mobile as possible, all the while being able to get consistent hits on foes within a respected range, which is a huge bonus. Now, alongside the advanced laser sight, a recommendation that I would make is the 2x optic. The 2x optic is a nice middle ground between the 1x and the 3.4x optics that will allow for you to both be competitive in its CQC and medium range, and lets you take advantage of the weapon in the situations that it shines in, that being a jack of all trades. If you mount on a 2x scope, you're mounting on a scope that allows for you to be a jack of all trades. For the love of God, do not use, and I repeat, do not use the 3.4x or the RNV scopes. It kills too much of your peripheral vision to be effective with this weapon. Soft point ammunition would be the next thing on the list to further extend the maximum damage range of the weapon, and then we arrive at the suppressor available to this weapon. I get it, it's an SMG. We by nature want to mount a suppressor on it to get the most out of our SMGs. But holy shit, putting a suppressor on the Jackal damn near brutalizes the weapon. A 50% reduction to the already sluggish muzzle velocity of 350 meters per second puts this weapon down to a velocity of 175, you heard it right, 175 meters per second. Which means that, yes, you're going to have to lead your shots even in close quarters combat with the suppressor attached. which is less than ideal. If you really want to mount a suppressor, then go nuts, but I don't feel confident in recommending it as an attachment option in this video due to how drastically it impacts the effective range and the overall effectiveness of the weapon in general. Sure, if you can use it, go for gold, but I'm for one am not willing to recommend it to every single player at every single skill level as a must own. And that to me, my friends, is the Jackal submachine gun available to the Terran Republic. In other words, a confused mess, well, not really a mess, just a confused weapon that doesn't exactly know where it's going to be most effective at. This weapon is a gun that's going to be horribly outgunned in many situations, but with the right amount of practice you can still go to work with it. And guys, on that note, that concludes today's video reviewing the MG-S1 Jackal for the Terran Republic. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, a backhanding of that like button would be greatly appreciated. And say you have been enjoying the Jackal yourself, say you haven't been enjoying the Jackal, you got some tips for the Jackal, leave it in the comment section down below, guys. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the Jackal. And if you've got any feedback for this video, also leave it in the comment section down below. Once again, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Have a good one.